My life. And hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome to Get a Grip with Coach Elix. I'm your host, Coach Elix. With me, my amazing co host.
Stephen Frederick Masick is in the house and so excited.
That's Attorney Masick to you and to me and to everyone else. And Stephen the Medium also.
Yes.
He speaks
Yes.
to that people too. And he is my amazing husband.
Yes.
Not just smart, he's pretty damn good looking as well.
Thank you.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you. So let's bump up the lights and see if anyone has any questions.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Okay, so happy Friday, everyone. We are looking at a beautiful sunny day here in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. I'm so excited about it. Stephen, we got lots going on, so let's
Yes.
start with that. What's going on with you?
We're right into it. We're getting right into it.
That's
So
it.
today feels like fall, which I love.
Like
Like
what?
it's fall. It's cool.
Fall.
It's
Fall. If anyone listening from outside of,
I,
Rhode Island, New York, he means fall. Fall. That's it.
what did you think I meant?
Well, the way you say fall, people would say like falling.
I could say autumn.
That's it.
Is
That's
that
right.
better?
Yeah, you could say that. I think people
So?
would absolutely get that. But anyways,
Yes.
go ahead. So it
Yes.
does feel. I mean, it's beautiful. It's just beautiful. It's crisp. I'm just happy that we have sun.
Yes.
So
Yes.
what else is going on, Stephen? Tell us all about you.
Well, first
This
of
is
all,
very hard for you,
I know.
Mark. I know Stephen doesn't like to talk a lot about himself often. So
No.
this is a difficult. Be prepared to put commercials or something if
Yeah,
he just runs out of doesn't have anything to say. Just go ahead.
No, because I am an introvert, so I keep
Mm-hmm.
quiet. I don't say much. But okay, so let's start really quickly with last week's episode that we
Yes.
talked about the birds I saved and the babies. So the babies down in the in-law apartment coming in, I didn't remove this Christmas wreath in time, and I realized a mother built a nest and there was eggs in there. So now fast forward weeks later and
Months
there's
later.
two babies.
Months later. Yes.
And they are, I haven't checked today, but they are like at any second ready to fly the coop. They are like, and I posted a video on Instagram and Facebook just showing the mom coming. I didn't post the second one because I was watching, and then the second one, they're house finches, by the way, if anyone's curious, because the dad came and he's got all the red on his back. So I realized, oh my God, these are house finches. So I'm like so excited that these
and
babies.
If you ask how does he know, well, I'll tell you how he knows. He sits at the top of the stair of our home with binoculars, staring at what's going on with the babies. So that's how he knows people. And also, if you didn't listen to last week's show, we also have we would have, if not for me, have that yellow tape, do not cross this line around the whole perimeter of our home because
I need that.
nobody can use the entrance. My poor cousin had to go up and down and around the corner to get in and out of her car because that entrance is absolutely not accessible to anyone until those babies fly away. Am I
Yeah.
exaggerating?
No. I mean, I like when you were watching me via the kitchen and said, "What are you doing?"
Yeah,
As I walked by him with
people.
binoculars.
Yes. I'm telling you, this could be an episode of any
Something.
funny comedy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Something, right?
We
Something.
should
I don't
should
know.
have a show, Stephen. I don't know. Have you ever thought about that?
Never.
I know.
Never.
We
No,
should come
never.
up with some show.
And so this is not what I'm about to say, but I got to get this into is that yesterday I was in my office. I had readings. They were just spectacular. And I had to stop and do a couple of errands. So when I was in Walmart, the 24 supercenter that has like groceries and whatnot, I was getting a couple of things. I said, you know what? I'm going to get a brownie mix. So I'll surprise Elix because he was with a client, and when he was coming home, he was bringing me a salad and it had salmon in it. It was like amazing. So I wanted to surprise him, but the surprise didn't go as anticipated.
Oh, I was
because
surprised. I was
I-
surprised. That's for damn sure.
Because after it was all done, and I pulled the brownies out. I thought, they're awful flat for brownies. They didn't like really rise too much. And then I flipped the pan after I let it cool, and I follow the directions, and it was, like I'm giving it a little jolt, and it's not coming out of the pan it was baked in. So I said, well, you know what, I'll just have to cut them and pull them out. And then I went to do the first one, and it was just like cement. Those brownies were not moving for me, and I blame all of it on Elix, because clearly I didn't have the right pan. So,
Yeah,
right?
because clearly he it's like unbelievable. We have I cannot tell you how many pans for brownies, but no, he decides to go and find one of my specialty pans for cakes. Which is a different kind of pan. You do need to use, parchment paper when you're baking, blah blah blah. He doesn't know any of this. So, that's what happened. So they were crunchy.
I looked all over for those pans.
I like them,
couldn't
though.
find anything.
I like them because I do happen to like, more of the crunchy cookie like brownie. So they were good for me.
No, they really do
Yeah.
taste good. I mean, if it's provided you have your real teeth. I don't know if they're going to work with dentures, but in any case, no. But seriously, they were really really good. But so like, there's just so much to update, and there's just not enough time. But I got to just say this really quickly.
Try your best, because I know
I'll
you
try.
got a lot going on.
Yeah, I will. I will say this. So, as people know, I'm an attorney and a medium, and that's what I do right now. After 20 years, I retired from representing kids. So I'm in the mediumship mode, which I love, right? So 3 days ago, I am, my best friend is off this weekend, so he could maybe be listening. Paul's the one that owns a funeral home. I was talking to him on the phone. I'm sitting in the master bedroom, like on the couch, just chatting with him. And all of a sudden I can feel like my insides of my legs start sort of shaking. And I know it sounds weird, but it's a way that, like, if spirit wants to say something when the person's either in front of me or on the phone with me, they come in like gangbusters. They just come in really hard, and because they're like, don't hang up, there's something we got to bring up. So I was talking to Paul about another friend, and I am not kidding you. I was telling Elix that they came in, so it was Paul's loved ones in spirit. They came in so heavy that I, for the life of me, could not remember what the heck I was talking about with Paul. So I'm like, listen, Paul, I got to stop for a second. He's like, what's wrong? I said, someone's coming through for you, and they're coming through so heavy that I can't even remember what I was saying. I literally cannot remember what I was saying. I said, so clearly I got to focus on spirit. So, there was a couple of like really cool validations. And then I said, talking about wax. And he's like, wax? And I'm like, this is the first time in all my readings I've ever got wax. So, of course, when I get something new, I have no idea where to go with it. Like, are you talking about waxing a floor, a car, like candle wax? I have no idea. And I said, let me ask. So then out of nowhere, his mom, who he was extremely close to, and she's been gone since she died young. She's been gone since like 96. And he was very, very close to her. She taps me on my arm as I'm on the phone with my best friend, and says, like, wax in the ear. And I'm like, oh. I said, oh my God, Paul, it's to do with like wax in the ear or hearing. And he was taken back so much, because he said, you're not going to believe this. And I said, what? And he said, over the past couple of weeks, I've been like feeling like I've been saying what? Like a couple of times. And he said, and today, this was earlier that day, he had a family coming in, and he said to the woman who was there making arrangements, like the second time or third time, he said, I'm really sorry, I have to ask you what again, or repeat this again, but he's like, I swear, I'm not sure if I'm going to need a hearing aid, but I'm having issues hearing. And the point of this is his mom, who's been gone since 96, is just wanted to prove that she is still with him every second. Everything he does, she's part of. She knows everything that he's doing, and that she wanted to bring that up. He never told me that, because it was just recent. And lo and behold, he's going to make an appointment with the GP. And I would not be surprised. I'm not a doctor, but I wouldn't be surprised if this issue is something to do with like wax or, I mean, I think Mark talked about wax in his ear. And my aunt Rita used to have her ear drained because it would affect her hearing.
That's a common thing. I mean,
Yeah.
especially as we mature, that is something that a lot of people have to get done.
So she just came like flying in and said, "You know what, Stephen, you're on the phone with my son, and let me bring this up now so you can tell him I know what's going on. Don't stress about it." But it was about just a reminder for him after all these years that physically she's not here. Every other way, she's with him every moment. It was
That's
amazing. It was wild.
That's amazing. And and if you're listening and you say, "Wow, that's amazing," I wish I could have that opportunity. Well, you do. You have to find Stephen the Medium, go to his website, and take a look to see what his availability is. He does this via Zoom or in person in his office if you're local. But he also have events, and you do have an upcoming event, right?
I do. June 30th here on the Cape. It's the one. It's Dunn and Sons, and it's max of 16 people, and everybody gets read. And then there's other events. There's one coming up in August. I think August 10th, which is a bigger one in Middleborough. I think Marlborough.
Mm-hmm.
So this thing's happening, but you can check all that on my website.
Yeah, and don't despair if you live outside of Massachusetts or in the country or outside of the U.S. You can still get to Stephen the Medium because he does a lot of those readings via Zoom. And so no matter where you are, you can have absolutely access to that incredible experience. Paul J.
Felix,
Martin.
I just said, not to interrupt you, but I just told you this week I had two guys from Indonesia.
Yeah, I know you have people from Canada, from Ireland, from I don't know, was it Mexico? I mean, you have people from all over the world, which is amazing. You're international now.
Sure.
Which is really amazing. But what I was gonna say is that Paul J. Martin, who's the person he's been referring to, is his best friend, and I call him a spirit whore, because no matter what we do, where we are, those spirits, my goodness, they will knock everyone else's out just so that they can come through. Am I wrong?
No, you are correct.
You're am not
definitely
wrong.
correct.
But Stephen, today we are about to have an amazing show, a show that is all about personal brand. And I know a lot of people, when you hear of a brand, you often think of products, right? Or businesses, or professional organizations, if you will. But this is about your personal brand because you too have a brand. And if this is the first time you're thinking about your brand, then this is the perfect opportunity to listen to what that is and why that really matters, because your brand, it's really at the end of the day how you present yourself to the world. So we're going to take a small break, commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about your personal brand. Again, a brand, when I think of a personal brand, is really a unique combination of skills, experiences, values, personal values to you, and qualities that define who you are and how you present yourself to the world. So this is an important conversation. I promise you, you do not want to miss it. We'll be right back. And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Elix. I'm your host, Coach Elix, with me, my amazing co host,
Stephen Frederick.
Stephen Frederick, Stephen the Medium, attorney Stephen Frederick. It's here. Also, my husband, my amazing husband,
Sure.
if you're new to listening to this amazing show. And today we are having an amazing conversation, and a conversation that I think not everyone thinks about, not everyone has thought about, has considered, but it's about your personal brand. Who are you and how do you present yourself to the world? Have you ever thought about that, Stephen, for yourself?
You mean before I had my business, you mean?
Well, yeah, because again, I know that often when we think about brands, we think of our business. But yeah, before you had your business, did you ever consider what your brand was?
No. No, because like as you mentioned, and I think a lot of people are in the same boat, is that if you ever asked me that years ago, I guess my response would be, no, I don't have a brand because I don't have a business.
Yeah, that's very good, Stephen, and that is exactly the most common answer. Most people don't think about their personal brand unless they have a business, unless they're running an operation or they work for a company and they have awareness of what that brand is for the company that they work for. But this is about a personal brand, and it is critical that you start thinking about what your personal brand is because again, like I said earlier, your personal brand is really how you present yourself to the world, how others will perceive you. And I'm telling you one thing, if you don't define your personal brand, others will define it for you. And I'll give you one example, Stephen. If you are not reliable, other your brand will become someone who is not reliable. If you are somebody that says one thing and does another thing, that becomes your brand. Others will define you as that. So you gotta pay very close attention because you don't want you know someone else. You want to be clear as to what it is that how you want to be seen by others, how you want to define yourself. So let me say, so what is talk a little bit about how do we define a personal brand. So your personal brand is a unique combination. It can be a unique combination of qualities, values, skills, experiences, perceptions that define who you are and how you present yourself to the world. And it encompasses how you are perceived by others, the reputation you build, and the impression you leave in people's minds. Now, think about that, Stephen. How often do you meet some random person and you walk away saying, huh, I I didn't really like that person, right? And and I may say, well, why? Well, I don't know. They didn't seem authentic. That it's a personal brand right there. So in essence, your personal brand can be your personal identity, your professional identity for those of you who may be running a business. Stephen and I also run a business, so we have to be in tune with both our personal brand and our professional brand. And most importantly, for us, we have to make sure that both that personal brand and that professional brand are aligned. Because if they're not aligned, then you can be perceived as not really authentic, not being, something phony, if you will. And again, I guarantee you've come across many, many people who, they present perhaps well, but there's something about them that doesn't quite match. And that's because sometimes they have a very organized and clean professional brand, but the personal brand doesn't match that. So again, you want to pay very close attention to that. So now, your personal brand, absolutely goes beyond skills, your qualification. It encompasses personality, beliefs, and the way that you interact with others. Your personal brand influences how people will perceive you, the opportunities that you attract to yourself, the relationships that you build throughout your career, and your personal life. And I'll say ultimately your personal brand is an ongoing process of self-discovery, refinement, and growth. I love when I'm talking to my clients, I believe in the power of recreating ourselves, reinventing ourselves, and that when you reinvent yourself, that is a function of having a strong personal brand. What since you never thought about your personal brand, how are you looking at this differently now, Stephen?
Well, now, I mean, of course, I'm very, very familiar with my brand for several years now because I have a business. I
Mm-hmm.
just meant before I had a business, I wasn't looking at, I didn't think I had a brand. And, I would think too that when you talk about somebody who has a different brand business wise and personal wise, I would think at some point, probably yeah, sooner than later, something's going to happen because I don't think you can continue two different brands and having like a positive brand in business and a negative brand in your personal life. I think you can only juggle that for so long, if you will. But you know what I never really thought about, Elix, is until we started talking about brands, is that when you said about rediscovering yourself, that's then your brand really goes hand in hand with your purpose, right, and your
Absolutely.
passion, and has as you're moving forward, your brand, like you just said, when you're rediscovering, is going to keep shifting and changing because you're discovering why you're here. Like what's your meaning to be here, right? Like why were you put on Earth? This wasn't just your mother and father had sex and you came out. Not to be like say that very rudely, but you're here for a reason, right? There's a reason. There's a meaning to your life, and I love the discussion of your brand, and that everyone has it, and most people don't even know they have it.
Absolutely. And again, if you have a business, for example, and a lot of my clients, they have established businesses, or some of them, maybe young entrepreneurs, and they have this clarity around what they want their business brand to be, right, to look like. But then, one of the things that I start working with them is, look, you you said that you're gonna open your business at 9 o'clock, and it is 9:05, and you're just showing up to open the doors. That is part of your personal brand, because then people will start relating to you as not somebody who is not cannot be counted on. So I also say, look, if you tell someone that you're going to call them back, and then you don't call them back, that becomes part of your personal brand. You are someone who do not honor your word. Even something, Stephen, and again, I know a lot of people don't even think about this, but when you label yourself as something, right? I'm not good enough. That becomes your personal brand. I'm not good at engaging in conversations with people, or I'm not good at meeting new people. That becomes part of your personal brand. What are some other labels that I am? You know, I'm an, well. You mentioned this earlier. I'm an introvert person. Okay, now maybe there's we could look at that from many perspectives. However, if you're using that as a way to justify why you don't do XYZ, then that becomes part of your personal brand. So you got to be really have a really important level of self awareness, because again, your personal brand is how you present yourself to the world and how the world perceives you. So I would say critical things to remember: impeccability, it's super important. Impeccability with your word, impeccability with your presentation. By the way, presentation. I often work with clients who are super smart, super bright. They do amazing things, and they show up. to anything, right? Because it's not only a meeting; it could be a personal, meet looking like hot mess. That is your personal brand. So I often remind people, listen, you got to pay attention. You got to show up. You got to bring impeccability to everything that you do. And Stephen, we recently, Stephen and I, we had an issue with our dry cleaner because we bring our shirts to be dry clean, and then some of them came back with broken buttons or missing buttons. Now, that to me, I would never put on a shirt with a broken button, even if it's not noticeable, because to me, that is part of being impeccable. You get what I'm saying, Stephen?
I do.
And you wouldn't do that either.
No.
That would be the first thing you say, no, I'm not going to wear that.
No.
If there's a stain and nobody can see the stain, I've heard you 1,000 times say, I'm not wearing that, because there's a stain. That is part of your personal brand. You get what I'm saying, Stephen?
I do.
So this is really a conversation. I know we often don't think about our personal brand, but this is a conversation that you should start thinking about, because it is a value not just in the professional realm, that is, but it's also valuable in the personal realm. So we're going to take a small break. When we come back, I want to talk about why it's important to define your personal brand, why does it matter, and then perhaps talk a little bit about how you can start creating that personal brand for yourself. We'll be right back. And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Elix. I'm your host, Coach Elix. With me, my amazing co host.
Stephen Frederick. And now, based on this conversation, I want to go buy a new shirt.
What is it?
I want to buy a new shirt because you keep talking about the buttons missing. So you're just making me want to buy a new shirt.
That's because you're thinking about your brand. You want your brand to be impeccable. You do not want to be seen as somebody with old, broken, what do you call it, button shirts.
Well, you know something, Elix.
Yes.
As I'm listening to you about this whole conversation,
Yes.
all the years as an attorney, and as I just mentioned about working, in juvenile court for 20 years, and throughout, like in between those 20 years, I also started a probate business, and I was really busy with probate, and I was in probate court all the time, and my clients were nursing homes and hospitals, and I was doing guardianships and conservatorships, and still doing juvenile court. So I was busy, and I think, now that I think of it, I don't think I ever, even with that business, I never thought of me having a brand until I realized that I was a medium, and I was doing some big event, and this person came up to me and was just talking to me about, how they enjoyed me coming on and doing what I do, and then they brought up, you need to be working on your brand. That was really the first time that I thought about brand. And now when I I don't know, in retrospect, think about when I left probate first, I closed that down, and then I ultimately, as I just mentioned, last year I closed juvenile down. I remember, and I know I shared this with you, that some of the clerks in Worcester probate said to me, via email or called me and said that several of the judges asked where I've been, because I was there all the time, and they told the judges that well, he's a medium, he talks to dead people, so he's focusing on that business. And several of the judges responded, they're going to miss me because I was always on time.
Yes.
And I was always prepared, and I had all my documents completed correctly, and that they always, two judges said this, that they knew when the clerks called me that there was not going to be like, what, we'll call the case again, you need to get this. It was like Stephen gets in front of me, and when Stephen leaves, it's done.
Yes.
And now that I think about that, that was my brand. I was very focused on always being on time and having the right documents and knowing what I needed to get done for my clients. So it's kind of cool when you start thinking about brands and just who you are, business-wise or no business-wise.
Absolutely. And so that was your brand. You just didn't have the awareness
Yes.
of this is my brand. And that's the point of this conversation, that many of you may already do all of that. But this is about bringing self-awareness to your brand so that you can then elevate, who you are and how you show up in the world, and pay attention when you're not showing up in a way that is consistent with those personal values or things that you value most. You get what I'm saying, Stephen, right?
Yes.
So now, defining your personal brand is really like creating a blueprint. And that, in essence, that's what it is. It's your blueprint of how you want to be perceived by the world. And why is it important to have a blueprint? Well, number one, it creates clarity. It helps you understand who you are. It helps others understand who you are, what you stand for, and what makes you unique. And this clarity guides your decisions, actions, and communications. Just you, Stephen. The judges knew clearly that you were somebody who showed up on time. Your work was impeccable. They never had to worry about you not being prepared because you were always prepared. Now, it also, having that blueprint, creates differentiation. What does that mean? Well, it means that in a world, of course, that is so crowded, standing out becomes really crucial. Your personal brand distinguishes you from others, perhaps with similar skills, similar backgrounds, and it makes you memorable and recognizable. You just demonstrated that quite well. How many attorneys did those judges get to see every day in, day out? Yet they remember you because your brand was so clean and so concise that they knew you were very memorable to them. And for me, I'm telling you, I pay very close attention to how I show up every single day and how what I do, because I want to have, I want to stand out, and I want to stand out in a way that is consistent with my values. Authenticity is another reason. A strong personal brand is authentic to who you are, and it allows you to be genuine, transparent, fostering trust, credibility among the people in your life. Now, those of you who know Steven, that is one of the qualities that stands loud and clear about who you are. You're authentic. You are who you are. You stand for who you are, and you don't compromise that for nothing, for anyone. And that is when you have clarity around what that personal brand is for you, you never, ever, ever compromise your brand for anyone else. It also helps you advance because, again, we're talking about personal brand, but when you show up into perhaps an interview or, a professional networking event, and your brand it's clean and it's clear, you will stand out, and that attracts opportunities, it attracts partnerships, and it really attracts other people that will resonate with your same values or expertise, if you will. It also creates consistency. Consistency breeds trust, and a defined personal brand ensures that your message, your behavior, your appearance are aligned across different platforms and interactions. So again, it's aligned because you cannot have a personal brand, unless everything that you do, everything that you are, is aligned with the core values that you hold most important to you. And resilience, it creates resilience in times of change and criticism. A strong personal brand acts as a shield. It provides a solid foundation and a sense of purpose, helping you navigate setbacks and stay focused on your objectives. When you're crystal clear as to what your personal brand is, you can navigate disappointment better. So when you don't get that job that you thought you were going to have, standing solid in a personal brand that will help you really solidify that it's okay. This is not you. Again, it wasn't meant for you because perhaps there was a disalignment in their brand with your brand, and that is okay. You get that, Stephen, because that is also, I mean, everything when you talked about how the judges saw you, I see you like I'm thinking of your brand, and I'm thinking about you showing up in all of these categories.
Oh, absolutely. I remember, this conversation is so big and so huge, and I think for anybody who may be listening or will listen, via podcast at any point and think, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying, but I don't have a business, and I'm an okay person. I live my life. I think this conversation is so bigger than that because, as you just pointed out, Elix, everything is connected. How you acknowledge and identify your brand is really going to just it's ripples in the water. It's just gonna hit so many different places. And I remember one incident specifically that I was working for a hospital in Worcester, St. Vincent's, and I had been, I when I started that business, I just went in, had an appointment with one of the VPs or the CFO, and just said, listen, I know you're using blah, blah, blah. Give me a chance. I can get the guardianships and conservatorships quicker and less expensive. And it was just like trying to get a business, and it worked, right? So I was working at St. Vincent's for a while. Everything was going well. And all of a sudden I realized, and I was very, very close with all the social workers because those were my key people. And I realized, hey, I haven't received anything from St. Vincent's. So I reached out to a very good friend of mine, a social worker, and she told me there's a new director. So I set up an appointment with the director. I sat down with her, and she was tough. very, very tough. Like I could tell, like barely a smile when when I walked in because she was using somebody else. I sat down and said to her, "I just wanted to introduce myself. I've been doing blah blah blah." And I remember you're going to remember this, Helix, because I called you
I
at the end of
do.
that
I do. Actually,
at
I
the
do
end of the
remember.
meeting, and I sat down with her, and she said, "Well, the person we're using can get this done quicker, and they can turn it around in a day or 2 days." And I was very, very conscious about what terminology I used, but I did. I'm like, listen, without even realizing I'm focusing on my brand. I said, her name was Shannon. I said, Shannon, with all due respect, that's impossible. They're not turning it around that quickly. It is virtually impossible. I've been doing this. I know everybody in the courts. And I said, and I think that you haven't given me a chance. And I thought to myself, I walked out. And I called Elix and said, I don't think I'm going to have St. Vincent's anymore. Because I'm like, listen, I'm not going to just pacify you and say yes when I know it's not true. I'm like, no, no, this is my brand. I know exactly what I can do and how fast I can do it. And I am the fastest. And then 2, 3 days later, two social workers called. I had 4 guardianships in the week. And once I did them all, it just started moving forward, and I got, just my it wasn't just the pace I was at, the pace was even bigger, and that's a brand, right? That's you.
That is a brand.
Yeah, that's you stepping in and saying, listen, in front of me is my brand. I'm going to explain to you my brand, and as long as I'm authentic with my brand and consistent, then I know that even if the business, like a no more business came from St. Vincent's, I know something else bigger was about to happen, because that's what happens being authentic and following your brand. It's like the ripple effect, as I mentioned, it's connected to everything.
No question about it. So again, your brand really, really matters, and I hope that this conversation is, can help you to perhaps start thinking and start bridging the gap and connecting. How do you want to show up, and how are you showing up, and where are you aligned, where you're not aligned, and what it is that you need to do to get in alignment so that your brand is consistent with, again, how you want to show up and what it is that it matters to you. So we're going to take another small break, and when we come back, I'm going to share with you some steps that you can take to that will help you create your own personal brand. We'll be right back. And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Helix. I'm your host, Coach Helix, and with me, my amazing co host,
Stephen Frederick.
Stephen, the medium attorney, Masick. It's in the house, also my husband. And today, we are having a conversation about your personal brand. Who are you? Have you thought about what your brand is? And what we've concluded, thus the conversation we've had so far, is that most of us, when we think of a brand, we think of a brand that is attached to a business. So if you have a personal business, if you work for a business, you may have a definition of what the brand is, and you may have thought about that brand from a professional perspective. But what I'm saying to all of you is that every single one of us, every single one of us has a brand, and you want to be able to define what your brand is. So you want to have self awareness of what that brand is, because if you don't define that brand for yourself, others will define it for you. And you don't want to give the power to someone else to define that brand for you. I don't want someone else to say Elix's brand is he's not responsible, he's not attentive, he's not authentic, he doesn't show up on time, he doesn't honor his word. Those are all elements of my brand. I don't want somebody else to define that for me. I am defining that for myself. So I'm very, very intentional in defining my personal brand. And you, Stephen, you talked about how you never thought about a personal brand, even though you paid attention to your brand up until this conversation, right? Right. Anyways, so what are some of the steps that you can take to create a personal brand? So there are, creating a personal brand involves some steps to ensure it accurately reflects who you are and what you want to achieve. So here's a few things that I would invite all of you to consider. First of all, self reflection. Take time to reflect on your values, your strengths, the things that you're passionate about, and your unique qualities. Ask yourself questions like, what are my core values? What am I passionate about? What sets me apart from others? And whatever, there's no right or wrong answer. Whatever it is that means for you is what it means for you, and nobody else can define that for you than yourself. So that is self-reflection is critical. It's a critical step in defining your personal brand. Define, the people around you. In other words, your audience. And again, this is not about, a business necessarily, although, we often think of a brand related to a business, but think about or determine who do you want, you know, who who are you reaching with your own personal brand? So if you're a school teacher, right? Your personal brand reaches your students, reaches parents, reaches colleagues. If you if you are a home, your personal brand will reach the community, will reach other people around you, friends. Again, try to think about who are the people that your personal brand is going to reach. Consider the demographics, their interests, their needs, and understand that that audience helps tailor your messaging and contact to resonate with them. So again, you want to be consistent, make sure that your actions are consistent with what it is that you say it's important to you. And I think, Stephen, you talked about purpose earlier. Purpose is really critical because when you know what purpose is, that becomes the foundation for everything that We do everything, and I can speak for myself, but for me, everything that I do is guided by purpose. Number three, craft your unique value proposition. And that means every single one of us, we all have a unique value proposition. Identify what it is that makes you distinctive and valuable to others, to the people around you. Your unique value proposition should articulate how it is that you are going to um, show up for others. In my case, I can tell you, when I think of my unique value proposition, I know that what that is for me is my commitment to show up as somebody who creates an opening so that others can be the best version of themselves. So that is my unique value proposition. My brand has to align with that. So what I'm asking myself every single day, all the time, is, am I being the best version of myself? Because if I'm not being the best version of myself, there's no way, no possible way that that I can create that opening for others to be their best version of themselves. Stephen, have you thought about what your unique value proposition is? Mm, I don't know where Stephen is. Mark, are you here with me? Just to make sure that I'm still.
Can you hear me?
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
I can
oh,
hear
there
you,
you
Stephen.
are.
I got scared there for a moment because I'm thinking, oh my God, we went off the air, and here
No,
I
no,
am
I
talking.
don't know what happened here. I was going to say that before I even answer that question, I think one of the greatest things I'm just learning, even hearing you talk about branding, is that there's so many levels too. I was just thinking of, if you have a particular building or a location that has changed restaurants like 3 or 4 times and they just can't survive. It's almost like there's a double layer of branding, because there's the first layer is, oh, that place, that building itself, no matter who comes in, is not going to do well, it's not going to be good, don't go. And then you've got the second brand of whoever takes that inventory and moves in, they have to like sort of show their brand. I think this conversation is so interesting, Elix, because there's just so many levels to it. And I'm sorry, what was your question?
No, no, no. If you ever, you're sort of answering the question. If you ever thought about your unique value proposition, like
Yeah, I mean,
that thing that makes you unique to your audience.
I think I always come or always feel like I come from a place of being authentic and genuine, and I think it also does come from a place of understanding my meaning, why I'm here in the mediumship role as well as the attorney role. But right now, this is really why I'm here. And once you know your purpose and your passion, then I think everything else just falls in place, and it does make you this very special person in your own way, which then sort of translates into this amazing brand.
Absolutely. And often, some of the other things may sound like they only apply to building a brand for a business, but I promise you, you can really think about them for your own personal brand. So creating a bright brand identity, how do you want others, to see you? What are some of those elements that reflect your personality and resonate with the people around you? Develop a brand voice. Define, you know, how you want to communicate with those around you, whether it's professional friendly, conventional, but a brand voice should always be consistent across all the platforms. Develop, again, your presence, create content, engage and network, but and seek feedback, right? Ask people to give you feedback, because that is perhaps one of the most important ways and best ways to know whether your actions are consistent with what it is that you're aligned with. And I'd say this perhaps is what I want every single one of you to walk away with is stay consistent and authentic. Stay consistent and authentic. And again, if you're crystal clear as to what your purpose is, stay consistent and authentic. That doesn't make you perfect. Perfection is not what we're seeking. What we're seeking is for you to have a sense of self-awareness so that you know that you're being consistent and authentic. And when you're not, you can correct in real time. So this is all I got for today, Stephen. I mean, this was an amazing conversation.
That's it.
Time seemed to rushed by today. You know, I mean, I hope this conversation, Stephen, was as good to all of you as it was to me, because I love this conversation about personal branding.
Yeah, I think people are definitely going to be enlightened by it.
I hope so. So, but you know how else they can be enlightened? They can be enlightened by finding you. How can they find you?
Oh, and they are, believe me, just saying. Stephen the Medium. Just find me anywhere, Stephen the Medium. As I say before, just open your window and yell out, Stephen the Medium, and I'll just pop right over.
And he'll show up. And you can find me at Coach Helix anywhere on social media. And I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. By the way, stay here. Our producer, Mark Clark, Mark's Jukebox is starting now, and he has amazing music that he'll share for the next 2 hours.
Great show.
Great show. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in, for listening. We'll be back here next Friday at 1 p.m. live, and we'll see you soon. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Bye-bye.